for some reason.
I don't know if maybe I licensed something for them. Or, that could be. Okay. They were on like some label that.
Yeah, they're on. It's. It's something. I actually just saw it today and I forget what it was. It was weird. It was something that I hadn't really heard of before.
All right. Well, hello and welcome to Idiots with Instruments, the show that follows Red Hot Rebellion as we write and record new music and interview very, very, very fancy people in the music industry and beyond. I am Jim Tremontana, bassist and lead vocalist of Red Hot Rebellion.
Hey, I'm Doug. I play guitar. I'm Andres. I play the drums.
Today we have an interview with a very fancy gentleman, Dino, the Ampeg Guy, who knows everything about the bass guitar and Ampeg Amplifiers. And he's a real nice guy. So why don't we just run that interview right about now? Joining us today is Dino, the Ampeg Guy, who has been playing music throughout the United States for many, many years. Throughout his career, he has shared the stage with countless household names, recorded numerous sessions, and performed in the pits of Broadway shows. He is the author of 4 books, many of which are with the legendary Mel Bay. And he is currently the active educator and clinician and senior product specialist and clinician for Ampeg Amplifiers.
Wow.
He is known as the Ampeg Guy. He is Dino, the Ampeg Guy. Welcome to Idiots with Instruments, Dino. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Jim. I got to have you follow me around when I'm doing my clinic so you can do my introduction. That inspired me, for crying out loud.
Nice. I used to be a carnival barker, so...
I don't know why you said used to.
Yeah, I guess I'm currently one as well. So, Dino, the Ampeg Guy, you are a bass player. I'm a bass player, but you are way better than me. So, can you please tell me why'd you gravitate towards bass? Why'd you choose that as your instrument?
Oh man, it's a long story. We got about a half hour.
Sure, that's exactly what we have scheduled.
You want to take?
It was. I grew up. Actually, I grew up in a non-musical family. I grew up in a very traditional Greek. Traditional Greek family, if that's not an oxymoron in itself. But I grew up listening to Greek music from my parents, and I grew up also with 7 older siblings, brothers and sisters that were all very influential in what I listened to as a kid. And man, the first time I remember to this day, I saw Kiss on the not Paul Williams. Oh my gosh. The comedian that was on Match Game 76 or Match Game, whatever it was. Anyways.
Yeah.
Paul Lynn.
Yeah. So you saw Kiss on TV.
What's that?
You saw Kiss on TV.
I saw Kiss on the Halloween special.
Oh, that's amazing.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
And you hear the stories about older musicians, how when they saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, that kind of changed their lives.
Yeah.
Well, Kiss on that show changed my life. And to the dismay of my poor dad, who was watching the show with me, when I turned around and said, "That's what I want to do, Dad."
That's amazing.
I haven't spoken to him since.
Oh man. So that must have been like what? The Destroyer album, maybe? 76?
That's exactly. Yeah, Beth was the #1 hit. Detroit Rock City, that was right around the Destroyer album. Wow. Exactly.
That's one of our favorite bands. A lot of people have said we have a lot of Kiss influence. Our guitarist Dougie over there is a Kiss fanatic. He's also our resident gear nerd, so I'm hoping if we get into some technical conversations about Ampeg's beautiful products, maybe he understands what you're talking about. Because I play through a vintage V4B, but I have no idea how old it is. Maybe as the Ampeg Guy, you could give me a clue on like what I need to look for. Like, is there a serial number clue on the back I could tell like when the thing was built?
No, the easiest way to tell is by looking at the front graphics of the amp.
Okay.
And I get a lot of guys that email me pictures of their gear, and that's a lot of ways. I can pretty much I can pretty much narrow it down to just a couple of years just by looking at it. And then to pinpoint like exact day and month or year and month, you got to go by a serial number.
Okay.
But, yeah, I can tell you just by looking.
Yeah,
at
I'll send you a pic. We're pretty sure it's around like a 74. Is that what you were thinking, Dougie?
Somewhere in there. I think that's what we kind of thought by internet research.
White rocker switches or black rocker switches? Do you remember?
It's got black rockers.
Yeah, on the back. Oh yeah, up top. On the top. Yeah, they're black.
Yep. Yeah,
they're black.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's probably it's no later than a 74. I can tell you that.
Ooh,
nice.
Wow.
So
Older than me. That's crazy town.
The fun story about this amp is I saw it in a used music store, and Jimmy, when we first met up, I can't even remember what you were playing through, but
like something
terrible
in solid state.
Yeah, and this amp was sitting in there, and I had played with a guy who had played through one of these before and was using it for bass, and he had it marked at like $300 or something silly. And I told Jim,
gosh.
I told Jim, I said, you need to bring all your crap down here and trade and buy this thing now.
Yeah,
and that's what he did.
Yeah, and I've been.
And you've had it
ever since. Yeah, it's heavy as shit. I have it in a road case.
Yeah, it's very heavy.
So like I took an already heavy head and put it in like a 30-pound road case because I never wanted anything to happen to it.
We call it the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, it's so big it takes 2 men to carry it.
Yeah,
and I play through
like. Every time you open it, you go like, oh.
Yeah. Don't look at it. Don't look. Close your eyes, Marion. Close your eyes. Yeah, and then I got the fridge, the 810 cabinet, so it's it's heavier and bigger than a man. So. Yep. That's
awesome.
So that's the tone, man. That's where it's coming from.
Yeah.
That's it. That's exactly it. It's like I tell people, when I'm doing a clinic, I'll ask people. I say, man, how many people still listen to vinyl? And you see a couple of hands go up, and then I'll say, how many people still listen to CDs? And you see more hands go up. Then I pull out my iPhone, and I say, how many people listen to MP3s on their iPhone? Everybody puts their hands up. Mm-hmm. But then, then the question comes out, it's like, all right, who agrees? Vinyl sounds way better than an MP3. And, and it's like, well, you're basically, you're trading convenience for tone, and you're doing the same thing with amplifiers. We make small, lightweight, portable amplifiers that sound great, but they don't sound anything like an SVT.
Right.
And I tell people that's the trade-off. You trade convenience for performance is basically what it comes down to.
Nice. So what's your rig these days? Like you've played a bunch of different styles, but I guess what's your go-to rock gig? Like if you were going to play like in a Kiss cover band, what would you play?
Sit in for Gene.
Yeah.
It depends. Am I carrying the gear, or do I have a roadie carrying the gear for me?
Well, you got Doug. Doug will carry it.
Yeah, I'll carry it. Yeah.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because my go-to rig, probably in the last year or so, has been the reissue of the V4B. And then either an 810 cab or I have a couple of single 12 cabs that I use. But I gravitate towards the old school all-tube stuff.
Yeah.
And the V4B is light enough. It's like 40 pounds, so it's like half the weight of an SVT, so it's not killing me to carry in and out of nightclubs and on side stages and stuff. But that's been my go-to rig, man. It really has. It's a great sounding amp.
Yep. So what you need to do is get a 30-pound road case.
Yeah.
No, they make 5-pound covers.
Oh, yeah.
A nice padded cover does just as well.
Yeah, I had the option because it was a custom-made road case too, and he's like, "Do you want wheels and like an extended pull arm on it so you can like wheel it around?" I'm like, "Nah, screw that. I totally should have done that."
Oh, you totally should have done that.
It would have been like $3 extra.
Yeah, it really would have. It would have been so cheap. But so I guess so we talked about your rock rig, and I guess I'd like to talk a little, I guess.
That
was
really
all right.
good.
You still there, Dino?
I am still here.
Nice. So thank you for bearing with our technical difficulties. We don't call it idiots with instruments for nothing, sir.
That's all good.
Yeah.
So I guess the question on deck is how do you go from a living room musician to a club musician to the
Robin was involved. Yeah. We found that out. What else?
Oh, Well, like I was saying, I gigged around the New England area for a long time with actually a band called Rockin' Horse, and then another band called Wild Child after that. And,
nice.
It's just your typical rock, heavy metal, hard rock band, and at some point in that time, it was like there's got to be another way to make a living as a musician. So I packed everything up and I moved out to L.A. I went to Musicians Institute for a year there.
Oh, nice.
And in the year I was there, man, it was like I was exposed to so many different styles of music that before that I thought was like, that's it's not rock. It's not cool, man.
Right.
But I just got exposed to so many different styles of music, and of course you had to learn how to read, which I kind of already knew, but I really got up on my reading chops. And like I said, it was just I was exposed to so many different styles, and at that point it was like, all right, I got to make a living doing this, otherwise I'm going to starve to death.
Mm-hmm.
So, somebody called up and said, hey man, we got a Latin jazz gig. Can you play Latin jazz? And even if I couldn't, I'd be like, yeah, I can play Latin jazz. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You got charts.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh man.
And there were some styles I was better at than others. Obviously, I'm not the strongest Latin jazz guy, but I'm a good R&B player. I'm a decent jazz player. I'm a decent. Right now, I'm playing in a country rock band or a country band, and and it just, I guess it comes down to just loving all sorts of music and not discounting any style of music whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, because that's we kind of dabble here and there. Like our drummer Andres, he also plays in a country rock band right now, and and a rockabilly band, and I've done
psychobilly.
Psychobilly. Sorry, I didn't get the exact subgenre properly.
It's different.
You're right. Psychobilly is different. Yeah. So, and then like you do a lot of clinics and stuff in different trade shows and different events too. So you're an educator as well. So is it kind of like, do you feel yourself giving back in that respect, or how'd you kind of fall into that whole arena?
Well, that's, obviously, like I said, for years I gave music store lessons and stuff like that. And then after I had graduated from Musicians Institute, they hired me on as a part-time instructor, and then eventually a full-time instructor.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you've been doing this for years.
Yeah, and it's just, I love teaching because that's where you learn is when you're teaching. And I've learned so much from giving private lessons and even giving classroom lessons. It just kind of bounces back at you, where you learn so much by teaching so much. And, so when I got the Ampeg gig, it was just kind of like a natural progression where, all right, so I'm not teaching theory or I'm not teaching playing technique, but now I'm teaching kids and people how to dial in their amplifiers or how to choose the right amp for the right gig, or, it's still it's a passive information to somebody else, which anytime you can pass information to someone else and it makes their life easier or brightens their day or makes them better at something that they want to be good at, it just makes me feel so much better about it too.
Yeah,
it really does.
Awesome. That's awesome. Hey, have you seen that new Dave Grohl documentary called Play that he just released?
No, I haven't.
It starts out basically where interviews with a bunch of kids in like different schools of rock kind of thing, and talking about the importance of music education and how it enriches these kids' lives, and then Dave goes on to say basically how he's still that kid, and like you never really lose that feeling of how the excitement of learning and playing and trying new things in music, and then he goes on to play a 20-minute instrumental all by himself, like 12 different instruments. And like they do, like he plays it all the way through on each instrument, and then they, using clever editing, like blend it all together with video. And it's amazing, but
and it's called Play.
It's called Play, yeah. And look it up on YouTube, Dave Grohl, who I think is the last the great American rock star that we have left. I don't know, but so that kind of diverges into a next question, Dino. Since you're a Kiss fan, is rock dead or is it still beating?
No, it's still going, man. It's still going.
That's right.
I mean, it's changed forms here and there. But you look at guys like Dave Grohl, and I'm trying to think of some other artists like
Red Hot Rebellion. And
yeah,
right, yeah.
No, it's funny because speaking of documentaries, I was watching just the other day, and I've seen it a million times, but I always go back to it. It's the documentary called "It Might Get Loud."
Oh yeah,
and,
I've seen that.
And they take 3 guitar players from 3 different eras. Starting with Jimmy Page, and then Edge, or The Edge, and then Jack White, and and that movie amazes me because I really was never like an Edge fan until I saw that movie, and it was like I had an all newfound respect for him. And same thing for Jack White. I was like, yeah, who's this guy from the White Stripes? But watching that movie, and there's one scene where Jimmy Page breaks into Whole Lot of Love. And like ba-da, ba-da, bang, da-da-da, and he starts playing that, and you see the Edge's eyes and Jack White's eyes just like light up, and you could tell at that moment they're being schooled by the old man.
Yeah. And
it was just like, 70 years old, and the dude is still educating us.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So, but I don't think it's dead at all, man. I think it's I think there's a lot of people out there that are carrying the torch. I think it's just harder to find now because it's not, with the advent of streaming and everything else. I think it's just, you have to go out and look for it. It's not on your everyday radio anymore, unfortunately.
Right. It's no longer mainstream.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I guess, and some would say that's kind of where it belongs anyway, right? Like,
yeah, I read an article that made a pretty good case for, rock. Now that it is fringe and it's kind of out of the mainstream, it's allowing people to kind of push more boundaries and actually create good music instead of like corporate rock,
right?
Like where it's kind of like douche rock or whatever you want to call it.
Right. Douche rock.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. But no, it's true. It's not. The record companies aren't controlling it anymore, and it's kind of back to where it was when it first started off. You're not adhering to any rules anymore. You can kind of do what you want to do for that reason. Yeah.
Do you find yourself like do you listen to like Spotify and that kind of thing? Like listen to like crazy playlists, and is that where you do music discovery these days, or are you pretty much just listen to the old stuff?
I actually do a lot of music discovery through my kids.
Nice.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got both daughters. I've got a 22-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old daughter, and my 22-year-old years ago turned me on to like Avenged Sevenfold,
nice,
and Disturbed and bands like that. But I turned her on to Zeppelin and Black Sabbath too.
That's right.
And then my 15-year-old, she turned me on to like Panic at the Disco, and oh my gosh, I'm having an old age moment here. But she just turned me on to a lot of different bands that. Pierce the Veil was another band that she turned me on to, and so that's where I do a lot of my discovery. I try and I don't want to say I stay away from Spotify, not for any other reason other than if I'm going to get into something, I'm going to go out and buy the CD.
Right.
And that's that. I think that's one of the things. Like even with my kids, they don't buy collections of music anymore. They either go on Spotify or they buy a song, but they won't buy the whole collection. I remember as a kid, like if you wanted to listen to Detroit Rock City, you either bought the entire album and discovered 10 other songs that you never would have thought of discovering.
Yeah.
Or you bought the 45.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess that was going to be my next question is the album dead? And I think for a lot of people it is, but there's still like collectors. Like I love albums. Like when I find like a new band or something and there's just one single available, I'm like, man, I want to listen to a whole album of this. Or and like I still buy vinyl and
I feel like a lot of the times I've felt like bands maybe like medium strength song is what gets made into a single. So like I feel like there are a lot stronger songs usually on the album that you don't get exposed to unless you get it or listen to it through something.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, it's like my older daughter bought me just a cheap little USB turntable last year, and I didn't have a turntable for the longest time, but I still had all my albums.
Nice.
And I just kind of made it a point, like every day. And I was actually posting on Facebook for the longest time, like this is what Dino's listening to today.
Nice.
Like a lot of guys do. And I made it a point every day to just sit down and listen to a couple of albums. And it kind of brings you back to your childhood. It was like, oh, you hear that. Oh, gotta flip the album now, and it's just a cool experience,
Well, when we get off the phone, I'm gonna have to get your mailing address because I'm gonna send you our first album. We pressed it on clear red vinyl, and it sounds fantastic.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I'd love to hear it. Absolutely,
I think you will love
absolutely.
it.
No, and that's the other thing too. It's harder and harder for especially for. Unless you have a huge budget, to be able to print vinyl, I would imagine is getting tougher and tougher to do.
Yeah,
more expensive.
It's expensive as shit. We worked out like what did I do? It was like some kind of trade I worked out for that. But we could have.
That was a couple years ago.
That was many years ago.
I know. I heard more recently that the cost of vinyl has gone down because enough bands have been trying to print.
Yeah,
on vinyl
and a couple new production plants
Sure.
have come up. Like for a while, there was only 2 in the United States.
Right.
Now I think there's 4.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
Well, yeah. So it still is expensive for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's
a lot of it's
the
Czech Republic prints a lot. Like
Yeah.
a lot of places use the Czech Republic too. So, but
wow.
And I think that's because they just never stopped pressing the entire time,
Yeah.
and all these other places ramped down production. They got sold
still
off.
don't have CDs over there yet.
Yeah. We're like, what is this? There goes our
Still
2
listening
Czech.
to Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits on CD.
Yeah, nice.
prove us wrong.
Yeah, there go our 2 Czech listeners.
Sorry,
They're
guys.
like, damn it, Doug.
I'm sorry.
Well, and then do you do some things with with artist relations too as well, or is that a whole other separate area? So
I as of going on almost 3 years now, I was the artist relations. Not necessarily manager, because manager gives you a whole different title, but I was the artist relations guy. And at one point, Ampeg had decided that they looked at me and said, "Hey, you're going to do artist relations now." I was like, "Well, I've never done artist relations." Well, and they go, "But you know all these players and stuff." It's like, yeah, I party with them and I play with them and I know them, but I've never actually had to manage them. Are you kidding me?
right.
Yeah, that probably sounded awful.
Talk about trying to talk yourself out of a job.
Yeah.
They're like, well, congratulations, here you
Yeah,
go. Now
no,
you're doing it. So what does that job entail? Like what is your job with that?
I got to tell you, it's probably one of the toughest gigs I've ever had, and it's it's everything from just the smallest part of the gig is hanging out with people and just being cool and being their bud. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of people think. It's like, oh, well, you hang out with rock stars all day and drive around in limousines and drink champagne and no. I get up at 3:00 in the morning because somebody in Germany, SVT, just bit the dust and they're going out on the road and they need a replacement ASAP.
Right.
So yeah, it's everything from that to literally just lining up logistics for artists that are touring.
So you'll coordinate like their amplifier, like their whole back line and all that kind of stuff for the tour?
Yeah, in a lot of cases we'll do that too. If it's somebody that is especially if it's a big tour and they're going out on the road and they're working with bands actually bring set designers now.
Yeah.
Or hire set designers, and it's like, well, set designer says I can't have an amplifier on stage, and so it's got to sound good in my in-ears, and it's got to be under the stage, and we can't have big stuff anymore because economics of transportation. So there's all that involved too, and it really is it opened my eyes to a whole different aspect of the industry that I had never even had any idea how it worked. So.
Have you ever had to build like one of those walls of like fake amplifiers have you ever seen those that it's like a facade like an old Western movie set?
Didn't Michael Anthony used to have like a wall of Ampeg or something?
Yeah. I think his were real.
There's been a few guys like Michael Anthony.
I think what's the
Ricky Phillips from Styx had a wall of SVTs for the longest time. Chris Weiss, who up till was playing with Ace Frehley, now he's out with the Hollywood Vampires. But when Chris is out with Ace, I think he's got like 6, 8, 10 cabs stacked on end. But those are all live. Those aren't even dummies. Those are real cabs.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's insane.
So, do you have like a small scale nuclear reactor powering that shit?
I think he has to carry his own generator to power that rig.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, so that's like all stage volume, though. He's probably not going through the loudspeakers then, right?
I don't know how loud he is on stage. I imagine Ace is a pretty loud guitar player anyways.
Yeah.
So, there is probably a lot of stage volume, but I'll have to ask him about that. How much of the stage is he filling with that rig versus
and
TAC?
he'll say, "What? What'd you say?
What'd you say?
Speak up, please."
But we do a fair amount of we have dummy cabs and dummy heads that we lend out to people as well. So there's a lot of that too. Yeah.
And are they made like by actually like the same production house that would be making the amplifiers, or is it just like set like costume designers? Like, where do they make the dummies from?
It's basically like we'll tell the factory, we need X amount of empty cabinets. So they'll build the cabinet. They just won't load it with speakers. And same thing, they'll build the head, but they won't load it with a preamp or a power amp. They'll just put the facade with the light in it.
Gotcha.
So you can plug it in, still light up the on light. Yeah.
Now, is that something you can buy? Like, say I wanted to buy a wall.
I was going to say, do you want to buy one of those?
I do.
Too?
I want to buy a wall of 810 cabs that are really light, though. It'll make me look really strong.
Yeah.
I think you got to know the artist relations manager.
Oh, good one.
Good one. All right. So now, so I'll slip a $50 bill into that vinyl record I'm sending you.
If I keep on talking, huh?
Yeah. Hey, all right.
I'm just, I'm sure, I think I know somebody that can help you out with that.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's good to know. Good to know. So, do you have any events coming up where you're doing any clinics or anything that you'd like to plug while we got you on the phone?
Nothing in the near future. We just did an event down in Brooklyn called Fear the Riff, and this was the second year that they did it, and it was the brainchild of, and again, I'm going to forget people's names here, but he just kind of reached out to a lot of his buddies who work for manufacturers on doing this guitar event, and it kind of started off as just a pedal event, and then eventually Sam Ash, the music retail chain, kind of got involved in it. So that was just last weekend, and I didn't do any clinics, but I pretty much just manned the Ampeg booth and played and talked to people that came in, and just kind of being the ambassador for the brand at that point.
That's cool.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool gig.
Yeah, it's awesome work when you can get it. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Do you need a drummer with a mustache to hang out with you? Because Anders is over there. His eyes are lighting up. He's like, this sounds like my dream gig.
Yeah, I know.
I got to tell you, man. I've been doing the Ampeg gig for about 16 years now, and every now and then, I have to sit back and pinch myself and go, they really pay me to do this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing, because up until that point, I mean, and in a lot of ways, I still am we all are struggling musicians, trying to figure out a way to make a living in the music business, doing something that we love, whether it's playing or recording. And 16 years ago, Ampeg approached me. A buddy of mine who managed the brand at the time said, "Hey, would you want to work for us?" And being a Boston kid, that's like the Red Sox coming to me and saying, "Hey, you want to pitch for us?"
Yeah, that's awesome.
Holy
man.
So I really am. I've been blessed. I really have been.
That's awesome, man. Well, you deserve every bit of the success because
Yeah.
you sound like a really nice guy.
I don't know about that. I don't know about deserving it. Maybe I've stolen some of it, but
Well, so where online can like people connect with you? Are you like on the Faceplace, the Twitter, or just Ampeg.com?
yeah, I'm on all the socials. My website is monotunesmusic.com. I'm on Facebook as Dino Monoxelos. Same thing on Instagram. If you just do like a Google search, Dino Ampeg Greek,
Nice.
my name will come up eventually.
We'll find you. Nice. And since you are an East Coast gentleman, where is your favorite place in New York City to get a slice of pizza?
Oh boy, to get a slice of pizza?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, just about any corner in New York you can get
There
a
we
slice
go.
of pizza.
That's
Yeah.
good. But where's your favorite?
Do you have a favorite place to get a slice?
Yeah, like somewhere that's just a little bit better than everywhere else.
Yeah.
I really don't.
You were just in Brooklyn, man. All right, we won't put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm like, you're asking the guy that forgot everybody's name to.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, true. Okay. Well, now, let me ask you an easier question then.
What's that?
You can only choose one. Desert Island, you can only have one. Is it going to be Judas Priest or Iron Maiden?
Wow. I think I'd have to say Iron Maiden.
Yes!
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to gravitate towards Iron Maiden.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jimmy's got an Iron Maiden wall.
Yeah, I got a wall in the studio, all Maiden. But I'm a big Priest fan, too. And like,
Well, that's I mean,
You
I'm
have
a
to
big
be.
fan too, but
yeah, you have
it's funny because I'm listening to Bruce Dickinson's book. What does this button do?
Oh, yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
And it's narrated by Bruce
By
himself,
Bruce,
so
yeah.
it's like he's telling you his life story.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
He's a guy we're trying to get in touch with but I think I might just cry the whole time because I've been a Maiden fan my entire life. I'll just
Yeah.
be like, I love you, bro. You fly airplanes. I love you. Well,
Oh man, he sounds like he'd be a great guy to interview too. Because
Yeah.
in his book, man, I can't stop laughing half the time because he is so funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those Brits sure are funny. That's amazing. Well, I won't take any more of your time, Dino. Thanks for being a good sport. Oh, Andres does have a question. Okay.
No, I have one more thing to just tell you.
Okay.
There are 5 cities named Cincinnati. Just to go back to it. It's Arkansas, California, Indiana, Iowa, and Ohio.
Wow.
Okay, well,
there you go.
the more you know.
There is a Cincinnati, California.
Yeah.
Wow. So now we got to visit there.
I guess so.
We could do a Cincinnati's tour.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Can we get Ampeg to sponsor
Who
that,
the fuck
Dino?
that?
Can we do Ampeg Amplifiers presents the Cincinnati's tour? We'll go to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, man.
We'll do an Ampeg clinic in each Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
man,
that's
that
perfect.
that sounds amazing.
You know, that way there on the back of the tour shirt, you don't have to list all the cities.
Right, you just say
Just
Cincinnati. Times 5.
That's a great idea.
Exactly.
See, this is why you're
Yeah.
the man. This is,
More people should do one city named tours.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all you really have to do is Springfield, and then you're in every
That's
state.
true.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
great idea too, man. All right, see, this is why we knew it'd be good to talk to you, Dino. You're a man of action, a man of insight, and a man of the people.
I just felt like I couldn't let you go without imparting that knowledge on
That
you.
is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason we do the show is to teach people. So here we are.
And see, we learned something new today.
Did.
Yeah.
Now we can all go to Brooklyn and get a slice of pizza from whoever,
Just
and
anywhere.
and be
And
happy.
that's going to haunt me now because, that question is going to haunt me until the next time I get down to Brooklyn.
Okay.
Well,
Dang it.
When we
you get
do
there,
this,
just call back.
yeah, give us a call.
No matter what time it is.
Yeah.
Just call us back.
I will call and say I found it. And it's not
This is the
Brooklyn, it's
spot.
in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cincinnati, New York.
Yeah.
oh, there it is.
That's
Good one.
amazing. Good times.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much, Dino. You've been a great sport, and we hope to talk to you again, and we'll see you in the Cincinnati tour.
Absolutely, guys.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
All
It's
right.
been fun.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man. Talk
Thank
to you
you.
later. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
So I guess that'll do it for this episode of Idiots with Instruments. I am Jim Tremontana, reminding you to keep it simple.
Hey, this is Blind Tone FWJ. Stay hydrated, everybody.
And I'm Andres, letting you know to please not play acoustic, because it takes away jobs from drummers.
That's correct.
Yeah.
All right. Bye!
Idiots with Instruments is a Solid Arts and Science production. All rights reserved throughout the multiverse. Please subscribe and review the show on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Visit idiotswithinstruments.com for exclusive bonus material and to support or sponsor this show.
I'm done. I'm a judge.